We continue with our reaction on the provisional measures regarding South Africa's case against Israeli genocide at the International Court of Justice. Joining us is Professor Thomashausen, Emeritus of International Law at the University of South Africa. Professor, thank you so much for your time. What do you make of the sentiments coming out of The Hague this afternoon?
Well, good afternoon, viewers and listeners. Yes, it's fresh. We need a bit of time to digest and analyze. But I think the main point is that Naledi Pandor didn't get the ceasefire that she wanted. The most important part of these 7 orders is what they don't say. And they don't order an immediate ceasefire. They simply state the very, very obvious at the beginning that Israel mustn't commit genocide and its soldiers mustn't commit acts of genocide. That's the first 2 points. And then the third point is quite a practical and valid one, that Israel must do everything it can to stop the incitements, to stop hate speech in Israel. But obviously, Israel is aware of that. Then comes the provision of humanitarian assistance. Nobody disagrees with that. Israel doesn't disagree with that. At the moment, the difficulty is that the relatives of the remaining hostages are picketing. They are staging human chains to prevent humanitarian aid from getting in by saying the kidnappers of our people mustn't be allowed to get food until the hostages come free. So what do we do with people blocking the road? Do we shoot them? Do we carry them away? So there will be practical issues with that. No destruction of evidence, that's a normal international duty. And the reporting duty will only lead to more squabbles and fighting, because Israel will, of course, present in 30 days a report which will outline that they comply with everything. And then South Africa has the opportunity to comment on the report. And they will, of course, argue that many things in Israel's report are not correct or not complete. And then we will wait for the next 30-day report. My bottom line, it is actually a sad case demonstrating the inability of the United Nations system as we now have it to intervene in the use of force. Using force, military force, is becoming the new normal of our days, and the UN is unable to stop it.
And Prof, as you speak about, practically speaking, when we have people who are forming human chains and becoming human shields and saying, well, if there are still hostages, then our enemies are not going to be getting this humanitarian aid. What happens to those soldiers? Do we shoot them? But also now we've also got word and reaction coming in from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has commented on the ruling, saying that he categorically rejects it. So if we've got the Prime Minister saying that he rejects this ruling, what are the chances of it actually being implemented practically?
Unfortunately, when emotions run high, people aren't cautious. As I said at the outset, it would be good to take a little bit of time to read the judgment and to study and reflect on it. I think the judgment is actually very good for Israel. It doesn't order Israel to stop using its military to try and free the hostages and to try and capture the Hamas leadership. So I think the Israeli government should maybe be a little bit slower in all their reactions, because many of the other things that Netanyahu said and that the President of Israel said and the Minister of Defense weighed heavily against them in these proceedings, as was outlined by the judge.
Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That was Professor Thomashausen, Emeritus of International Law at the University of South Africa.